The head of the International Monetary Fund warns that public debt in developed countries is the biggest threat to the global economy.
Without growth, the future of global economy is in jeopardy. And perhaps the greatest roadblock will be the huge legacy of public debt, which now averages 110% in the advanced economies. Pretty much wartime levels.
Christine Lagarde also warned against losing what she called the momentum of reforms amid concerns over global economic growth. She was speaking at the annual meeting of the IMF and the World Bank in Tokyo. The gathering has not been well received in the Japanese capital. Protests were held outside the venue of the meeting.
They say they are fighting poverty, but I don't think they are making any progress at all. Rather, I believe they are the problem itself.
I'm not at all pleased to have the IMF meeting here in Tokyo, as I wanted to stay united with all other people in the world who are also fighting against the IMF and the World Bank's rule over the world.
The meeting in Tokyo comes as Western countries and Japan are still grappling with their worst economic downturn since World War II. Meanwhile, the International Labour Organization says painful austerity measures are increasing unemployment rates across the world, especially in Europe. The ILO Director General says there are now 30 million more people without a job than there were before the global financial crisis began in 2008. Guy Ryder says austerity measures, especially in the eurozone, have pushed up jobless rates to as high as 25% in debt-hit countries like Greece and Spain. Ryder says there are more than 200 million unemployed around the world. A third of them are under the age of 25. Kamel Wazni is a professor of the American University of Beirut, and he joins me now live from the Lebanese capital to share his thoughts with us on the situation of the global economy. Professor Wazni, the question is, people now saying the labour organisation there, the International Labour Organization, blatantly clearly saying that the austerity measures are what's caused the rising rate of unemployment across the eurozone. First of all, would you agree with that statement? And if so, what kind of measures could have been taken to tackle the crisis that would not have led to unemployment?
Well, at the beginning, it's a major economic crisis, and this economic crisis is the failure of the capitalism system around the world. Now, the huge debt that amassed by the Western country, mostly the United States and the European country, there is not even one European country that doesn't have trillions of dollars in debt at the federal government. So the policy of easy money policy that has been followed by these countries and printing money throughout the last 2 decades led to this crisis. I think at this level, this monetary policy actually catered to the banks and the financial institution at the expense of the middle class and lower income class, and actually caused this major crisis and a high level of unemployment, especially in the Western world and especially in Europe. There is an average of 11% unemployment in Europe. In certain countries, it can go up as 25%, like Spain. And I think it's rightly so. Some of the economic measurement that was taken by the IMF and the World Bank were responsible for what is happening today, and the people were rightly so when they demonstrate against their policy, because austerity by itself, it doesn't really lead to economic solution, while you're given all kind of incentives to banks and Wall Street. As an example, the bailout that happened in the United States, where they gave almost $1 trillion to the financial institution and to Wall Street, that actually brought down the economic system. The average American did not receive any help, but the policy is catering to the rich at the expense of the poor.
Right, and of course when we come to the issue of bailouts, the monetary policies that have been adopted by the IMF itself to save the eurozone economies, a lot has been said on whether this economic situation, especially in the eurozone, you referred to Greece and Spain, there is going to lead to a breakup of the eurozone area, and for these countries to decide that they don't want to use the single currency. But the question is, a lot of people are saying the IMF, the European Central Bank, they're not going to allow that to happen because of the extreme cost that that's going to have on the global economy. But do you think that that could be inevitable now?
I think at this point, I think probably the world is going to a different formation. I think we need a world order. I don't think the IMF can resolve the crisis that is taking place in Europe. Eventually, the people of Greece and the people of Spain and other part of Europe cannot be under the mandate of the IMF. The IMF provided bad policy times after times, and with this austerity program actually increased the poverty level and the devastation for the economic system, because you have to think about it. If you have an economic crisis, you cannot tell you have to cut spending and you have to raise interest rate and you have to raise taxes, and then what left? Then that system will break down. And this is what the austerity program. Sometimes you have to provide help, but you have to be careful who's getting the help. Are those rich people are getting the help, or the poor people are getting the help? All the policy of the IMF, even the encouragement in Europe to give some loans, it's going to the financial institution. And we have to remember, some of the regulation was put by the monetary policy that actually supported by the United States and Europe led to the major financial crisis, especially the what we call the subprime crisis. We have to remember, for instance, the repeal of Glass-Steagall Act in 1999 led to the crisis in the United States and actually carried over to Europe. I think that system that was built after the Bretton Woods, after World War II, need to change. We need a new IMF, we need a new World Bank, and we don't want the United States and European to dictate policies around the globe. They destroy a lot of countries. Now they're destroying their own countries, and we have seen what's happening in Spain, in Greece, even in France, even in the United States, where the unemployment rate is real unemployment rate is at 16%, and the unemployed close to 23 million. Printing money and piling debts, it will add to the crisis, and we have to admit that capitalism has failed as communism has failed, and the world needs a new world, a new economic system, a new world order, different from the one been dictated by the United States, because the United States does own the IMF and own the World Bank with its European partners. It's a failed system, need to be addressed and need to be changed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Qamar Wazni, Professor of American University of Beirut, joining us there live from the Lebanese capital.